So here's what it would look like. On a balanced system, we'd have high energy and mentally alert and excellent health, and you'd be resistant to infections and vibrant. If you're an over-aroused, we start to see something. We can literally classify every illness and disease in either an over-aroused or an under-aroused state. Medicine's done that for years. Their drugs are stimulants or depressants because they know that they're one of two states that they have to deal with. The problem is the drugs continue to unbalance the system because they get more and more specifically focused on an area. For instance, they're going to stimulate the pancreas. Well, great, except that it has to work in balance with all the rest of the systems. So there's a huge flaw in that assessment for looking for true good health. I mean, you're going to look for great emergency responses, just you're not going to get back into a nice balanced system. We need to address activity at the central nervous system level to get it back. So cold hands, cold feet, tight muscles, teeth grinding, heart palpitations, high blood pressure, irritable bowel syndrome, and those are just examples of over-aroused. On the other side, poor attention, impulsivity, ADD, lack of motivation, poor concentration, spaciousness, constipation, difficulty awakening, low energy. Those are signs and symptoms of under-aroused. And if you have some of the under-aroused and some of the over-aroused, and maybe even some of the ones that are in the middle, it's just a sign that this thing is going through some shifts from left to right. And we really need to get this thing slowed down because that's not good. It's also, we need to pay attention when the patient comes in, that ask them, especially if they have bipolar tendencies on this, is to say, where are you today? Are you over-aroused or under-aroused? Because there needs to be a change in the intent of your approach on that day of their needs. If they're over-aroused and you're working on stimulating that nervous system, and they come in and they're under-aroused and you're stimulating that system, and you just keep going with them, okay, if they come in one day and they're under-aroused on that day and you slow them down, you're going to make matters worse for them that day. And that explains a lot of those patients that, 4 or 5 visits in, they'd come in and say, I don't know what you did last time, doc, but I feel terrible. And I wasn't paying attention that their nervous system had changed, and I was just doing the same thing I'd been doing. So we need to pay attention to what's going on. What a concept. Chiropractors paying attention to patients' needs. Great. Exhausted nervous systems. Look what's down in the exhausted nervous system. Cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, multiple sclerosis, ALS, Epstein-Barr, chronic fatigue syndrome. These people require an entire different approach when we're talking about duration, frequency, and intensity of our care. Their systems cannot handle a lot of change because they're already in trouble. And so we have to approach this completely differently. And all of a sudden it starts to make sense. And if you have any doubt about their nervous system and cancer, then some of the work, and we covered it last time in some of the calls done by Dr. Bob Blanks, talking about the new concepts of brain malfunction and its direct links to cancer, you need to pay attention to what's going on in the research world out there, because it fits right into who we are and what we bring to the table. This is the same chart, just a little closer. Let me move on to the next. So the question now becomes, and this is, to me, the important question at this stage, what proof is there that chiropractic adjustments alter brain functions? I did a 4-case study, and actually it was a lot more than 4 cases, but we managed to salvage 4 cases out of about 100 or so cases that we had gathered together over 3 years, and when the computer dropped and destroyed itself, and we hadn't backed it up. Yes, we are dummies. But we managed to salvage these 4 and put this in, and it won the best paper at the International Paper Symposium at Sherman, and I think it was 2005. It may have been 2004. I'm not sure. But I'll show you some of this, and we'll show you what started it on this. The important part now is there's been a second study come out of New Zealand College that is a beautiful piece of work, much more efficient than the one that I originally started with, on proving the same thing. So we're going to see more and more in this because we start to recognize the power of the adjustment to alter central nervous system activity. It's pretty exciting stuff. So here's what we were looking at. This is just a couple off of mine that I did. We're looking at left and right hemispheres on an individual prior to an adjustment. We had a set series of how we did this, so it was controlled. And then what we did was we gave them adjustments, and we used 3 different techniques. We used manual, torque release, and light touch techniques. And we had over 100 of these things pre and post, and it was just phenomenal what we were seeing. We waited 20 minutes after the adjustment. It was just an arbitrary time period, mainly because we had to get back into class. And we then did the same procedure after and took a look at that same person and what we had done with their brain activity, and this is the same person after. And we know what normals are and what ideals are because of the work that's been done over the years by the biofeedback people on EEG studies, and this is just an incredible increase in across the board in brain function on this individual. This brain is functioning on a much higher expression of life than the one on the left. It's the same person. The only difference was a chiropractic adjustment doing no more than 2 segments. Here's one before, this is another person, and after. And we saw this time and time and time again. So there was no doubt that we were changing things. This is another one. This is a line graph looking at EEG, looking at my brain getting an adjustment. I was getting a KL adjustment, specific upper cervical. And the red and pink are my beta left and right hemispheres. The green and yellow are alpha frequencies being generated by left and right hemispheres. And the purple is theta, left and right. And at A, I got down and got in a position to get the adjustment, and at C, he delivered the thrust on my atlas, and both hemispheres linked up into beta and went off the top of the board. Both betas dropped to the bottom, and both thetas went to the middle. And you want to talk about a beautiful life-giving healing adjustment. I told you that healing is not available in beta. It's available in theta and in alpha, and take a look at what happened to my brain. Beautifully, consciously relaxed. The world was a wonderful place. My subconscious had also shut down and relaxed beautifully, and my beta worry, fight, flight mechanism had gone to the bottom. And if this doesn't give you chills and goosebumps, then somehow I think you're not paying attention to the possibilities here. You know, and whenever we introduce something new into the profession, it always creates some doubt and some challenges because it means we have to change. We have to change our dialogue. And it's sort of like this puppy over here. I mean, this puppy doesn't know what to do with that cat. It's a new concept saying, well, I don't know. But you know what? If we give it a chance, if we give it an opportunity, we find that, you know what, maybe it's not such a bad place after all. And once we really start to understand it, it becomes a safe place. And that's what I want to do with this whole conversation of what we're talking about today. I want to give chiropractic its safe place that it so well deserves. Are there methods of recording objective changes in neurological function due to chiropractic care? The answer is yes. And that's why we ended up developing the NeuroInfiniti. And I had no intention of ending up being in marketing equipment. I just wanted to bring chiropractic into its neurological foundation. But we realized that that was our hole, that we kept falling into, is the black hole of chiropractic. There was no way of objectively measuring those central nervous system changes. But when we started to look around, and my relationship with the people that have been doing biofeedback for 25 years said, yes, there is. We just need to put it together. And so that's what we did. We developed the NeuroInfiniti, and it's just that little box at the bottom there with that blue light on, and those are the different applications we can connect to that blue box and to the computer to be able to tell us what we need to know. And we look at EEG, skin conductance, and let me just stop for a sec. EEG is cortical activity. Everything else we're looking at from there down is all limbic system responses to cortical activity. So skin conductance, muscle tone, SEMG, blood volume or EKG, hand temperatures, respiration, those are all limbic system responses to what's the message that's being sent from the cortical activity. And we can measure all of those and measure them all at the same time. So the next question was, is it approved? Yep, we have the FDA certification for the equipment. It meets ISO 9000 standards, so it meets world requirements for this types of equipment and manufacturing to be consistent and get that kind. And ISO 9000 is tough to get. So it meets CE approval all the time. And the company that builds our hardware for us, they are continually under scrutiny by ISO 9000 and FDA standards, so everything that comes out of there is, we know, of research quality level equipment, and that's used around the world. The company that manufactures this for us is Thought Technology, and they control 40% of the world market on biofeedback equipment. They're considered to be the standard.